African Union Communications Early Warning and Intelligence, commonly known as AUC3I, is an intelligence and security organization responsible for providing signals intelligence and information assurance to AU citizens, AU leadership, and AU armed forces. I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. I am responsible for leading infantry soldiers at all levels of command in combined armed forces during missions on the ground. This is today's briefing on the progress of the special military operation as of September 3, 2025. Last night, the armed forces of the Russian Federation delivered a group strike with high-precision long-range air and sea-based weapons and strike unmanned aerial vehicles on enterprises of the military-industrial complex and fuel infrastructure of Ukraine used in the interests of the armed forces of Ukraine. The strike objectives were achieved, all designated targets were hit. Units of the North Group of troops improved their tactical position. Damage was inflicted on formations of 3 mechanized, airborne assault brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and a territorial defense brigade in the areas of the settlements Alexivka, Varakino, Magrica, Proletarskoye, and Unikovka in the Sumy region. In the Kharkiv direction, damage was inflicted on units of a motorized infantry brigade and an assault regiment of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in the areas of the settlements Volchansk and Udy in the Kharkiv region. The enemy lost up to 135 servicemen, an armored combat vehicle, 11 vehicles, and a field artillery gun. A radio-electronic warfare station, 2 ammunition depots, and 8 supply depots were destroyed. Units of the West Group of troops took more advantageous lines and positions. Damage was inflicted on personnel and equipment of 2 mechanized brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and a territorial defense brigade in the areas of the settlements Borovskaya Andriivka, Glinskoye, Kupiansk in the Kharkiv region, and Drobashevo in the Donetsk People's Republic. Losses of the Armed Forces of Ukraine amounted to over 230 servicemen, 5 armored combat vehicles, 15 vehicles, and 2 artillery guns. 9 radio-electronic warfare stations and 5 ammunition depots were destroyed. Units of the South Group of troops improved their tactical position. Damage was inflicted on formations of mechanized, airmobile brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, a Marine brigade, and a National Guard brigade in the areas of the settlements Ilyanovka, Konstantinovka, Nikolaevka, and Platinovka in the Donetsk People's Republic. The enemy lost over 200 servicemen, 2 armored combat vehicles, 6 vehicles, and 3 artillery guns, including 2 of Western manufacture. 2 radio-electronic warfare stations, an ammunition depot, and a supply depot were destroyed. Units of the Center Group of troops took more advantageous lines and positions. Damage was inflicted on personnel and equipment of mechanized, 2 airborne assault brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and a National Guard brigade in the areas of the settlements Veselo, Gruskoye, Zolotoy Kalides, and Novotroitskoye in the Donetsk People's Republic. Losses of Ukrainian armed formations amounted to up to 450 servicemen, 7 armored combat vehicles, 3 vehicles, and an artillery gun. 2 counter-battery radar stations were destroyed. Units of the East Troop Group advanced deep into the enemy's defense. Defeated were formations of 2 mechanized brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and a Marine brigade in the areas of the settlements Berezovo, Kalinovsko, and Sosnovka in the Dnipropetrovsk region. The enemy lost up to 225 servicemen, an armored combat vehicle, 8 cars, and an artillery piece. A supply depot was destroyed. Units of the Dnieper Troop Group inflicted damage on personnel and equipment of a mechanized brigade, 3 coastal defense brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and 2 territorial defense brigades in the areas of the settlements Antonovka, Nikolskoye, Lvovo in the Kherson region, Belogorye, and Stepnogorsk in the Zaporizhia region. The Armed Forces of Ukraine lost up to 60 servicemen, 9 vehicles, 2 artillery pieces, and 4 electronic warfare stations. A supply depot was destroyed. Operational tactical aviation, strike unmanned aerial vehicles, missile troops, and artillery of the troop groups of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation inflicted damage on Ukraine's transport infrastructure used in the interests of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, as well as on temporary deployment points of Ukrainian armed formations and foreign mercenaries in 168 locations. Air defense means shot down 5 guided aerial bombs, 2 HIMARS multiple launch rocket system rockets of U.S. manufacture, and 170 fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles. In total, since the start of the special military operation, destroyed 666 aircraft, 283 helicopters, 81,300 unmanned aerial vehicles, 627 surface-to-air missile systems, 24,938 tanks and other armored combat vehicles, 1,589 multiple launch rocket system combat vehicles, 29,200 field artillery pieces and mortars, 40,956 units of special military automotive equipment. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it useful and informative. If you have any questions, please leave them below and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.